Following a pretty extraordinary run of events in the bubble, not just the games, how there were some fantastic series, some collapses from the likes of Patrick Beverley and the Clippers that no one wanted to see win, but also the things that happened off the court. And more importantly, the 0 cases that happened. I'm not going to say the word, you know the word. The NBA did a fantastic job. There were a few people trying to sabotage at different times. I think Hassan Whiteside went to get food, or maybe it was Rashawn Holmes. You then had the likes of Daniel House trying to sneak in a side piece. Like, what are you doing, man? Just play your role. Apparently, that was Skip Bayless's reasoning for them not beating the Lakers. Yeah, a few of those things happened. That's natural. But for the most part, it was pretty much flawless. A flawless run operation. Now, heading into the 2021 season, the players said, that's not going to happen. We're not doing the bubble again. You can understand their reasoning. I know some people think they should go sit in a cave with no air conditioning or no heating for 365 days a year because they get paid so much money and they don't deserve basic human rights. I know people say that, but the reality is it's fair that they made that decision. However, we were all focused on just getting basketball back. A lot of us hadn't seen our teams play, and what we didn't factor in is what we would see during the season, because what we've seen just 18 to 20 games into the season is something more than what we've pretty much seen in a number of years. Like, what you expect from a regular season is you'll have most teams will go through the season with a couple of injuries, but it won't really affect their results too much. And then there'll probably be one, maybe two, at worst 3 outliers in terms of teams that seasons are pretty much flipped upside down based off injuries. Look at last year, you had the Golden State Warriors who won 15 games because of Steph and Clay. And then you had a couple of other teams over the past couple of years, like maybe the Portland Trailblazers last year as well, who had Yusuf Nurkic. Like, you get a couple of teams every year that maybe lose 5 to 10 wins as a result of injuries to maybe 1 to 2 key players. But what we're seeing right now is just unprecedented, and I just want to look at some teams that are completely struggling because of the circumstances that are out of their control, and how these struggles, they might actually have a bigger picture as well, an impact on this team that might really impact this team for the next several years. It might seem like, oh, it's just 20 games, oh, it's just 40 games, they're just struggling, it's one season. That season could lead into more seasons of misery, and I'm going to talk about that. Now, before I do that, if you could drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, it's really appreciated. Liking the video just really helps out a lot, and subscribing to the channel, if you want to see more content like this, that would be cool. It's free. All of this stuff is free to do, so it would be much appreciated. It really does help out a lot. But anyways, getting back to the point at hand. This video isn't me giving a solution to the NBA. I don't know the solution. I don't know how to run a multi-billion-dollar business. That's personally not in my resume. I'm just going to say that some teams are struggling significantly because of what is going on. And I want to talk about those teams and potentially the ramifications that could come from this. Now, I want to start with the Miami Heat. Last year's NBA finalists, they started the season 4-4. They are currently 6-12. Last year's NBA finalists, do I need to remind you? 6-12? There's a reason for this, and that reason has been protocol. You've seen Jimmy Butler now miss 10 games with the illness, and well, there's actually been more to it than a lot of people have mentioned. Jimmy Butler's now dropped 10 pounds. This is what's kind of going under the radar as well, which I wanted to talk about. This virus, this thing, is said to have an impact on the respiratory system. Some players from different leagues and different sports have had it affect them in different ways. I know from other sports like the Premier League, there have been certain players that just have pretty much dropped off in form and not been able to get back to full fitness or full strength because of this. And I'm sure the same thing is happening for Jimmy Butler as we speak. So expect some people to come off this virus, this absence, and maybe not be back at their best, which again could impact winning results. And over the last 10 games, it hasn't just been Butler. They've also lost Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, Avery Bradley, and Goran Dragic for large stretches. Yes, that is their 5 best players. Duncan Robinson as well in that mix. So that's what they've had to deal with, and that's led to the worst record in the NBA over those last 10 games. Is it through fault of their own? No, if you're missing a lot of those players for significant periods, 2-8 isn't that unexpected. You've been without at least 2 starters every single game for the last 10 games. They'd have missed Butler throughout 10 games, and then, like I mentioned, one of those 4 or 5 players have been missing in every other game. At times, it's been like 4 of them. There was one period of time where it was just Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson up against the 76ers. A full-strength 76ers at that. I don't think they've got it as bad as another team I'm just about to talk about. They've definitely got it pretty bad, and if things continue to escalate, if it's a month down the line and they still can't get a healthy roster, which at the moment Goran Dragic and Jimmy Butler are still yet to play, who knows if someone else will pick it up? Hopefully, fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But if it's another month down the line and say they're, 10 and 24 or something, maybe they don't make the playoffs. Maybe they go from a 5th seed, a 4th seed to an 8th seed. These things matter, but it might have an even bigger knock-on effect. This is hypothetical, but potentially they get frustrated with the performances. Sometimes things get thrown out the window in terms of situation, context. Sometimes ownership and teams and fans just can't deal with losing for that period of time. And maybe they make a trade and mortgage off some of their future for the likes of Bradley Beal. That's something that could happen and maybe wouldn't have happened if they didn't start the season 6-12, which they wouldn't have if it wasn't for what's going on with this virus. It's something that we need to talk about, and that's not being talked about enough because it's still early in the season and people just assume that fingers are clicked and it's going to be fine. At this stage, there's no reason to suggest that by the end of the season, none of this stuff will still be happening, but I'm going to continue on. And the other team that is pretty much the hottest topic in the NBA, which I never thought I'd put in the same sentence as the Washington Wizards, well, yeah, they're the hottest topic in the NBA, and even they've had their troubles. I mean, of all teams, the Washington Wizards definitely aren't unfamiliar to playing G League players at every other starting position outside of probably their 2 All-Stars that they've consistently had for 10 years now. But even the Washington Wizards, even for their standards, things are getting out of hand, and these things are leading to people pretty much trying to go to Washington like those people who stormed the Capitol and just free Bradley Beal. That's what people are trying to do. Just trying to get Bradley Beal out of there at any costs. And you can see why. But people are just discrediting context. I mean, for the Wizards standards, I'm saying the Wizards standards. We know they are a terribly run organization. The Wizards fans know that. I'm sorry for that, but that's the reality. Even for their standards, when your second best player is Robin Lopez for multiple games in a row now, your second best player is Robin Lopez for multiple games in a row. Yes, I did repeat that because do I need to repeat that? Yes, when I'm talking about Robin Lopez, Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons is your second best player, should I say, outside of Bradley Beal. There's no wonder he's putting up 70 points a game because, yeah, you're working with Robin Lopez, Jordan Bell, Garrison Matthews, and Isaac Bonga. That's why the Washington Wizards are struggling. Would they probably be struggling if it wasn't for protocol? Potentially. Yes, probably. They were struggling to start the season. They were in a lot of close games, but they were against tougher opponents than they've faced recently. This was supposed to be their easier stretch of games where they could hopefully go on a run. But when you've missed over the last several games, Davis Bertans, Rui Hachimura, Mo Wagner, Denny Avdia, Troy Brown Jr., Andrew Smith, not to mention a couple of injuries with Bryant and Westbrook, like I mentioned. Those things I'm not going to talk about because that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about things that can't be controlled, and that's protocol. Injuries can't either, but you know what I mean. Those 6 players, 6 key rotation pieces, including a couple of starters, something that they just paid $80 million to be their sharpshooter. The effect that this could have on this organization, like I said, Scott Brooks has to go. That's probably the only positive that's coming out of any of these things I'm going to mention. Scott Brooks, surely he gets fired. Or is this an excuse to keep him because he's playing with G Leaguers? No, he is a G League level coach. No, that's a disrespect. Just ship him off to the YMCA. He sucks. Scott Brooks has to go. They're not deciding to just put out 10 G Leaguers at a time. I'm not trying to disrespect G Leaguers or third string players, but they're not choosing to do that. They're having to do that because of the circumstances, and this could lead to Bradley Beal being traded. This changes the whole future of this franchise because of this stretch of games where they haven't been able to get anyone on the court. Like, you can see the visual frustration in Bradley Beal's face. Has he lost all hope? Has he lost sight of actually what's going on? It's very possible. In terms of a couple of other teams, you've got the Dallas Mavericks. They're 8-9, I believe. They've had a few struggles with multiple guys sitting out for multiple periods of time. I don't know how big this will be on their future because obviously Luka Doncic, your superstar player, is still 21 years of age. But it could still lead to a trade. It's potential. There's definitely a potential trade that could brew from Dallas because they haven't started the season how anyone expected them to start. And like I mentioned, there's been reasons for them struggling. But sometimes teams and management don't see the full picture. And that could lead to Dallas making a move as well. And then, well, there's the Timberwolves. Prayers up to Cat, of course. Prayers up to Cat. But outside of that, like Timberwolves, I don't know what they're doing. I don't want to know. They're tanking. D'Angelo Russell was rested last week. And now he's had a bruised quad for a week. Like, come on, a bruised quad. Whatever's going on in Minnesota is just strange. To be honest, it's just strange. Now, to round this off, let's talk about a positive. There's one positive. And the positive is this is the most even league in a very long time. That's because of talent, but also because, yeah, we're seeing teams roll out with players that we haven't seen on an NBA court before. And we're seeing that multiple times a week. So we're getting matchups that they're very weird and unusual and unique, but they're also even at the same time. Not all the time. Sometimes you're getting guys like Gabe Vincent starting against guys like Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, or you're getting just those kind of lineups against those kind of lineups. You get what I'm saying? That's why it's unique, and that's why even a team like the Wizards, even a team like the Miami Heat, they're far from out of the playoff picture because, well, who's in the playoff picture? The New York Knicks at like 8 and 10 are in the 8th seed, I believe. I know there's several teams below 500 right now in the play-in picture. That's how even the season is. So if there's one positive to take out of this whole ordeal, it's that there's absolutely no reason to give up hope. I'm just trying to reason with some fans that might be struggling to deal with the slow start their team has made. Now, hopefully, things clear up in the near future. But if things don't, expect some big surprises. Say the Miami Heat could miss the playoffs. It could very well happen. The Washington Wizards could finish the NBA season as the worst team in the league. Could also very well happen. You've got multiple things that could happen that we just can't foresee. But I don't want to see some crazy trade or some team blow things up or things get out of control because of a 12-game stretch where they haven't had any players and they lose 10 or 12 games in a row. Let's give some context, fans. Let's not get too carried away. Let's realize what these teams and players are dealing with before we get out of control. Drop a like for that. Subscribe to the channel. Have a good day. I'll catch you next time.